Okay, Merlin. I need you to be quiet because I'm gonna start pretty soon with the workshop. You could put on a pair of headphones or you can listen.
What? It's on market of it. But doing.
Okay. Well, we'll see if anybody actually shows up. If not, then I'm going to call it and might consider moving an hour forward. Unless you'd rather me just do it anyway if nobody comes. Since it is streaming and recording. Okay. I know it's up to me. It's just kind of aggravating since trying to find a spot that's open for people that are actually interested, making it one that actually corresponds with when I can actually have the energy to do it is just... As I know that the videos are getting watched, so at least somebody is benefiting from them. Oh. Oh my. Hello.
Hello. B+2.
Okie dokie. Then we will go ahead and start. There are handouts on the table in the box. The one that we'll be using for this session is handout number 5. If the box does not work for you, please let me know. And the way that these usually start out is I do a reading from the book that we're working from, and then it is open to discussion about the points brought up in that chapter, and then working on the writing prompts that were given at the end of the chapter. So we are working from Gail Levine's Writing Magic, Creating Stories That Fly, and chapter 5 is called Getting Into It. When you start writing a story, all the beginning needs to do is to get you into the story. Only you and nobody else. It's too early to worry about drawing the reader in. At this point, it's a waste of time to keep rewriting the beginning to make it better. If something marvelous pops out, that's nice. Hello, Merlin. But if it doesn't matter. When you finish the story and go back to revise it, your beginning is likely to change. Even if you've figured out your whole story in advance and you know everything that will happen, your beginning still may change. By the time you've completed the first draft, you'll have an idea of what's important and exciting to open with. I often start by writing information that I have to know but the reader doesn't. I don't realize this while I'm doing it. Here's an example from my first draft of The Fairy's Return. When Robin was 15, his family began to believe that he had become a simpleton. If they had known the truth, they would have been certain he'd become a complete idiot. The truth was that, although a baker's son had no business doing such a thing, he'd fallen in love with Princess Lark, heiress apparent to the kingdom of Biddle. Robin wasn't even heir apparent to the bakery. That honor belonged to his oldest brother Nat. And Robin wouldn't ever be Baker's first assistant either. Robin's next older brother Matt would hold that position. Someday Robin would be Baker's second assistant, which was hardly a title at all. These paragraphs don't appear in the final book, but I had to write them, and then I was able to discard them. Here's the final, much revised beginning of The Fairy's Return. Once upon a time in the kingdom of Biddle, a baker's son and a princess fell in love. This is how it came about. Robin, the baker's son, rode to Biddle Castle in the back of the bakery cart. His older brothers, Nat and Matt, sat on the driver's bench with their father Jake, who was a poet as well as a banker. I don't plan out my books ahead of time, so sometimes the story I start isn't the story I'll wind up with, isn't even a distant cousin. When that happens, my original beginning gets escorted out and transferred to different territory in my computer. If beginnings terrify you, or if you just plain don't like writing them, or if they bore you, skip them. Sometimes you're writing a tale about a girl who's in a bank when a robbery takes place. Suppose the part that interests you is the robbery itself, but you think that you have to tell the reader who the girl is and why she's in the bank on that fateful day. So you start writing that she's 15 years old and she's spending the day with her cousin and her cousin's mom. They're going to see a movie, but first the mom has to stop at the bank. You're writing this, and it seems dull, and you can hardly keep writing because you're falling asleep. So what should you do? Hello, Gentle. If you just popped in, then the box that's on the table should give you writing cards, including the session card for this current one. So if what you're writing is putting you to sleep, bag it and go straight to the robbery. And tell yourself you'll see later what the reader needs to know about your main character and her relatives. It could even turn out that the robbery is the right beginning, and that the background info will fall into place naturally or will be unnecessary. On the other hand, you may feel more comfortable starting with the girl and her cousin and her cousin's mom. You may want to get to know everybody before the robbery. That's okay too. Start where you need to, with what appeals to you, what keeps you writing. And don't worry about beginnings. So that was the reading from the book. And it gives us a few assignments, which I will cover before we go into discussing. It gives us the idea to begin writing a story at 3 different points. And the example it gives is a competition. So open the story with the beginning of the competition, then write a page, and then stop. And that's your first option. The second option is to go further back in time, starting with the moment the main character finds out about the competition. Write a page, and then stop. And the third is to open with his or her very first preparation. Write a page, and then stop. Then you should review those 3 different beginnings and figure out which one excites you about the story more and why. And it's actually kind of important why sometimes a different version of the story excites you more, because then you can understand a bit more about what brings you into your own writings. So with that, were there any questions or observations or ideas that anybody wanted to cover based on the material that was read and cliff noted in these little cards?
I'll be honest, I personally don't have much experience with this sort of fictional writing. So I don't know. I guess I'm more of a one of the earlier steps this thing, and I'm just joining late.
And that's okay, because this book is actually not plotted, but paced for beginning writers as well as more advanced writers. So basically what we were covering in this section is just beginning in general. Oh yes, you can just watch. That's fine. Yes, it was. And I can read the example that she gave of her own writing again, if you want, so that you can see the difference between different types of beginnings and how that worked out. There is also a box, in case you didn't hear me earlier, here on the table. If you click it, it's supposed to give you a folder of all the current session note cards for the past sessions as well as this current one. So you'll be wanting to look for note card 5.
So I don't think any of us are here are actually writers or anything like that. So we're probably gonna go actually, but yeah, we do appreciate the group. It's just yeah, we're not good at this sort of thing, and well, we just kind of do something else for the music thing that's going on too.
Okay. Well, we have fun at the
Sorry.
music. No worries. I just offer these things for people that do want to work on their writing or might be interested in what goes into writing. So no worries.
Oh, Crimson, you can stay if you want. I'm just Means and I are probably gonna go. So, but thank you.
Thank you for showing up. Okay, so Crimson, you had wanted to know the story, so I will read what Gail Levine said about her story, The Fairy's Return, in its beginning. She starts often by writing the information that she has to know, but the reader doesn't, and she doesn't usually realize it while she's working on that. The example she gives is from her very first draft of The Fairy's Return. When Robin was 15, his family began to believe that he had become a simpleton. If they had known the truth, they would have been certain he'd become a complete idiot. The truth was that, although a baker's son had no business doing such a thing, he'd fallen in love with Princess Lark, heiress apparent to the kingdom of Biddle. Robert wasn't even heir apparent to the bakery. That honor belonged to his oldest brother, Nat, and Robin would never be Baker's first assistant either. Robin's next older brother, Matt, would hold that position. Someday, Robin would be Baker's second assistant, which was hardly a title at all. So that was the very beginning of her first draft. She says that these paragraphs don't appear in the final book, but that she had to write them, and then she was able to discard them. The final, much revised beginning of The Fairy's Return reads like this. Once upon a time, in the kingdom of Biddle, a baker's son and a princess fell in love. This is how it came about. Robin, the baker's son, rode to Biddle Castle in the back of the bakery cart. His older brothers, Nat and Matt, sat on the driver's bench with their father Jake, who was a poet as well as a baker. Now, so the first draft had a lot of information that was cut out in the final draft. For you, which of those two beginnings appeals to you more? And if one of them appeals more than the other, why? What catches you about those? Or what doesn't catch you? This is a writing workshop, actually, but if you want to use it to help develop your story as a pony, that's cool. Go for it. Or just to polish up writing in general. It's, up to you what you would like to do with this stuff here. So you've been a pony for 5 minutes. What do you know about yourself as a pony? And that's a good place to start. I can believe it. That's a pretty small pony. Yeah, that looks actually rather Gen 1. It's nice to see that pony shape. That's the kind of pony I grew up with. Ah. It depends on what shape you like most for your pony. And rainbows are good. And it's also really, really nice to see somebody with a slightly different pony shape anyway, because everybody looking the same kind of gets old. This is true. You'll want card session number 5. What? It shouldn't be. So it is. Okay, it did the wrong one. I can fix session 6. That's for next week anyway.
Let's do 2.
The actual text being studied is proper study text for session 6 has been fixed and updated. Yes, the idea of these sessions is to help you write your own stories. So this session's assignment is in session number 5 there at the end, which is this right here. And you don't have to turn this in at all. This is just for you guys to write around and play with. So, no pressure. I'm actually considering starting to hand these cards out a week early so that people can bring their stuff with them if they want to, instead of feeling like they have to create it on the spot. The haiku classes were a lot easier. Oh, yes, she might like this book greatly. If you want to, I can work on compiling other books on writing that I've found helpful and interesting and get a card of them to you. In the moderate regions, it's more relaxed, but I do some sessions in the G-rated region of Trottsdale, and I do prefer to keep my writing sessions very, closer to the G rating, just for my own comfort, and also because I often have little kids that will come and run behind me and look at the screen and like to listen to the audio part, so. But I have made a note of your name, and sometime tonight I will sit down and go through my collection of books that your daughter might find helpful, and I'll send you a note card. No, I'm actually an author. I do want to become a teacher someday. I have seriously thought about it, and I do some, one-on-one writing coaching. And I'm an editor. I've done a lot of editing.
Mom,
What, buddy?
guess what?
What?
Coffee right to your eyes.
Yes, I have coffee, silly boy.
Onto your nose.
Ah, what kind of writing does she like to do? Let's see here. There's several places where you can do that. There's Wattpad, and there's Fiction Press, and fanfiction.com. There's a lot of good places. Oh, you know what? Yes, that would be great. That's okay. I am too. I understand.
It's still on.
All right. Yes, Merlin, it's still on, buddy.
But
Yes. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, hi. Hi.
Hi.
This is my daughter. Say hello. Hi.